California, the sun-scorched powerhouse of America's western edge, is locked in a relentless battle with one of nature's most unforgiving forces: drought. Rivers that once surged now lie silent, and vast stretches of fertile farmland have splintered into clouds of red dust. Just when the land seemed to be losing the fight, a radical vision took shape. Draw billions of liters of water from the Pacific Ocean and carry it deep inland. Erect colossal desalination facilities. Harness cutting-edge wastewater recycling systems. And build enormous water pipelines stretching hundreds of kilometers, breathing life back into landscapes once thought beyond saving. So what unseen technologies are driving this bold transformation? If California stood alone as its own nation, its economy, valued at over $3.5 trillion, would rank among the 5 largest in the world. Even more striking is its agricultural dominance. The state supplies roughly 1/3 of all vegetables grown in the United States, along with nearly 2/3 of its fruits and nuts. Yet this agricultural titan consumes close to 80% of all human-used water within the state. A staggering contradiction, because California struggles to meet its own water demands. Geography plays a decisive role. The state lies wedged between the cold waters of the Pacific Ocean and the towering Sierra Nevada, a massive natural barrier that blocks much of the ocean's moisture from reaching the interior. As a result, water abundance and water scarcity coexist side by side, setting the stage for one of the most ambitious water engineering efforts in modern history. Most of California's rainfall is concentrated in the north, while the southern regions endure a harsh semi-desert climate. More than 60% of the state's natural freshwater supply depends on snowmelt from the Sierra Nevada, a vast seasonal water reserve that builds up each winter and slowly releases life-sustaining flows into rivers and reservoirs throughout the summer months. But this natural cycle is breaking down. During drought years, snowfall has declined by as much as 20 to 60%, and what snow does fall now melts weeks earlier than it once did. California is currently facing its most severe drought in over 1,200 years. Major reservoirs, including Shasta Lake and Lake Oroville, have dropped to nearly 40% of their capacity. Waiting patiently for mountain water was no longer an option. Instead, attention turned toward an almost limitless alternative: the ocean. Seawater, however, contains roughly 3.5% salt, making it unsuitable for drinking or agriculture. This challenge gave rise to modern desalination technology, offering California a new and nearly inexhaustible source of fresh water. Along the Pacific Ocean coastline, massive desalination facilities were constructed to make this vision a reality. Each day, a single plant can transform up to 7 million liters of seawater into potable water, a process that consumes enormous amounts of energy yet completes in as little as 90 minutes. The journey begins by drawing seawater directly from the ocean and channeling it inland to ensure a constant supply of raw water. Engineers achieve this by installing enormous intake pipelines made from corrosion-resistant carbon steel or large-diameter HDPE. These pipes, often measuring 2 to 3 meters across, are designed to withstand relentless salt exposure, extreme pressure, and the pounding force of ocean waves. Individual pipe segments, each spanning dozens of meters, are carefully lowered into position using heavy-lift cranes. They are then joined section by section with high-pressure seals and fully welded connections to ensure absolute integrity. Once assembled, the entire pipeline network is reinforced with steel support frames and firmly anchored to the seabed, locking it in place against powerful currents and the unforgiving conditions of the coastal environment. The desalination journey begins as seawater is drawn through pipelines directly into the plant's open intake screens. These intakes reach several hundred meters offshore, where barriers and coarse filters intercept large floating debris and prevent marine creatures from entering the system. A single 63-centimeter pipe can channel up to 15 million liters per day, over 10,000 liters every minute. Powerful pumps then propel the water toward the plant. Even with these precautions, some uninvited visitors occasionally make an appearance: jellyfish, crabs, and small fish. To safeguard the system, a massive screen blocks anything larger than 4.5 millimeters. Once past this stage, finer screens remove remaining larger particles. Yet, even after this initial filtering, the water is still laden with tiny suspended sediments. The next step is gravity-driven filtration through large tanks filled with carefully graded layers of sand. Water flows downward, while the sand moves upward, allowing only water to pass through the tiny gaps. Suspended particles cling to the sand's surface, gradually purifying the water. At this point, the water appears clearer but still carries countless microscopic impurities. Anything larger than roughly 1/10 the thickness of a human hair must still be removed. To tackle these fine particles, the water is stirred by massive paddles as two key chemicals are introduced: sodium hypochlorite, a disinfectant, and ferric chloride, a coagulant. The coagulant binds tiny particles and sand fragments into larger clusters, or flocks, which then settle to the bottom of the tanks. While most visible impurities have now been removed, the water is still not yet pure enough for desalination. Finally, the water passes into the cartridge filtration system, the last line of defense before reaching the reverse osmosis stage. Each housing contains multiple cartridges made of densely packed fiber layers, with pore sizes ranging from just 1 to 5 microns. As water moves from the outside toward the center of each cartridge, microscopic particles become trapped within the fibers, while crystal clear water flows through and continues onward to the next critical stage. When a cartridge becomes saturated, engineers carefully remove and replace it, ensuring the filtration system always runs at peak efficiency. Once this stage is complete, the seawater moves into the most critical phase, separating salt from water. Salt is stubborn. Its ions cling tightly to water molecules through electrostatic forces, making it incredibly difficult to remove. To overcome this, the system must exert extremely high pressure. This is where the magic of reverse osmosis comes into play. The principle is elegant in its simplicity: apply pressure greater than the natural osmotic pressure, forcing water molecules through an ultrafine RO membrane, while salt and other impurities remain behind. To achieve this, the plant relies on high-powered centrifugal pumps. Each component in the pumping system manages a specific stage of pressure, gradually increasing the force as water moves through successive compression phases. By the final stage, the pressure reaches around 60 bar, and nearly 60 times the force of normal atmospheric pressure, enough to separate water from salt at a molecular level. After the first round of reverse osmosis, the water is already nearly free of salt, but trace ions and microscopic minerals remain. To meet strict drinking water standards, the water passes through a second RO stage. This stage uses even finer membranes, operating under slightly lower pressure but achieving superior salt removal. Electrical conductivity drops to near zero, and every remaining ion is stripped away, producing water of truly purified quality. The end result is a crystal clear, ultra-clean stream of water with near-perfect purity, ready either for remineralization to improve taste and health benefits, or for direct distribution to cities, farms, and industries. Once the water has passed through the reverse osmosis membranes, it is already clean enough for irrigation, but it still requires careful pH adjustment before it is safe for human consumption. To achieve this, the plant adds a small amount of acid or a balancing solution, bringing the water back into a safe, neutral range. Desalinated water also lacks many of the essential minerals found in natural drinking water. To enhance taste and overall quality, the plant introduces trace amounts of minerals such as calcium and magnesium during the remineralization process. This step restores the water's natural mineral profile, adjusts pH, increases alkalinity, and reintroduces a familiar, refreshing taste, producing water that is not only safe to drink, but also healthier and more enjoyable. From here, the purified water travels through high-pressure pipelines to enormous storage tanks within the plant, ready for irrigation, municipal use, or direct consumption. It is then pumped into the broader municipal network or delivered to agricultural regions struggling under drought conditions. While desalination represents a cutting-edge solution for water scarcity, it comes at a cost. Producing desalinated water is typically 2 to 4 times more expensive than conventional sources, depending on location and operational factors. Despite its sophistication, many still question whether this technology is practical and sustainable for widespread, real-world use. California's fight against drought doesn't rely on desalination alone. Long before seawater became part of the solution, the state embarked on one of the most ambitious infrastructure undertakings in U.S. history, a sprawling network of dams, reservoirs, and man-made aqueducts stretching across hundreds of kilometers, powerful enough to transform the fate of an otherwise arid land. It all begins in the Sierra Nevada, where winter snowfall accumulates meters deep. When summer arrives, the melting snow releases precious streams of fresh water. Instead of allowing this resource to flow unused into the ocean, engineers constructed massive dams such as Shasta Dam, Lake Oroville Dam, and Folsom Dam, creating a reservoir system with a combined capacity of tens of billions of cubic meters, water banks designed to safeguard California through every drought cycle. From these reservoirs, water flows south through the Central Valley Project and the State Water Project. The backbone of this system is the California Aqueduct, a nearly 700-kilometer artificial waterway that snakes through valleys, crosses deserts, and climbs rugged mountain ranges. In areas of steep elevation, massive pumping stations push water more than 600 meters up the Tahoe Mountains. From there, water is distributed through an extensive network of reinforced concrete pipelines and branching canals, reaching every city, farm, and industrial hub. Delivering each cubic meter of water comes at a high price, tens of billions of dollars invested in construction, with billions more spent annually on electricity and maintenance. Many communities have had to raise water rates, both for households and agriculture, just to keep the system operational. Now, this very same water highway is ushering in a new era. By connecting the mountain water network with coastal desalination plants, California can blend multiple sources within a single system, creating a resilient, 21st-century water infrastructure, a beating heart of security for an entire state under pressure from drought. Thanks to its immense network of dams, reservoirs, and aqueducts, millions of hectares of farmland in the Central Valley, which produces over one-third of the nation's vegetables and nearly two-thirds of its fruits and nuts, now enjoy a reliable, year-round supply of irrigation water. Fields that once depended solely on seasonal snowmelt can continue producing even during the harshest droughts. Crop yields have surged, cementing California's position as one of the most critical agricultural hubs in the world. Despite the high cost of delivering water, this infrastructure remains the backbone that allows the state's agriculture to survive and thrive in an otherwise arid climate. But California doesn't rely on mountain runoff and desalination alone. Alongside these sources, the state has invested in massive wastewater recycling plants, ensuring that not a single drop of water goes to waste. These facilities provide additional clean water for urban and agricultural use while also reducing pollution flowing into rivers, lakes, and the ocean. The journey of recycled water begins deep beneath the streets, within a sprawling network of underground sewers where every drop from toilets, sinks, and industrial facilities converges. This vast, unpredictable mix often carries shredded paper, plastic bags, wooden branches, sand, gravel, and even grease. To prevent blockages and protect downstream processes, the first step involves a series of stainless steel bar screens. Towering like vigilant gatekeepers, these mechanical grids catch large debris, from rigid plastics to scraps of fabric, ensuring a smooth flow into the plant. After passing through the bar screens and grit chambers, the wastewater enters the primary treatment stage, flowing into enormous settling tanks where solids begin to separate from the liquid. These structures, often circular or rectangular, can hold thousands of cubic meters of water, acting as temporary basins where the flow slows dramatically. As the water's velocity decreases, heavier organic particles such as fecal matter, food remnants, and shredded paper begin to settle to the bottom, forming a dense layer called primary sludge. On the surface, mechanical skimmers move continuously in circular motions, sweeping away floating grease and debris, leaving behind a clearer middle layer of water. Through this simple yet powerful process, the sedimentation tank forms the first line of defense in wastewater treatment. Once water has passed through primary sedimentation, it enters the next critical stage, biological treatment within the aeration tanks. These massive concrete basins, several meters deep, are equipped with thousands of fine air diffusers at the bottom. Tiny bubbles rise constantly, gently stirring the entire water column while supplying a steady flow of oxygen. Within this oxygen-rich environment, billions of aerobic microorganisms thrive, breaking down and consuming the remaining organic compounds. These invisible microorganisms are the tireless workers of the plant, continuously purifying the water. As oxygen saturates the tanks, activated sludge begins forming clusters known as flocks, binding countless microscopic particles that remain suspended in the water. The water leaving the secondary settling tanks appears significantly clearer. Yet, microscopic particles and microorganisms, far too small to see with the naked eye, still remain. To remove these final impurities, the water is directed into massive filtration chambers, where layers of dark, finely arranged membranes act as an ultrafine barrier, ready to trap even the tiniest contaminants. This is the microfiltration system, acting as an ultrafine gateway that blocks bacteria, parasites, and the tiniest suspended particles. The now purified water is pumped under immense pressure into rows of white cylindrical tubes, the reverse osmosis modules, the very heart of the system. Inside each tube, multiple layers of semipermeable membranes are tightly wound, with pores hundreds of times smaller than the width of a human hair. Every molecule larger than HO is stopped in its tracks. Pressures inside the system can reach tens of bars, many times greater than normal atmospheric pressure, driving a process that is both incredibly powerful and remarkably precise. By the time water emerges from these white cylinders, it has achieved a level of purity that shimmers like liquid crystal. This is the decisive transformation, cutting-edge technology turning wastewater into clean, safe drinking water. All the information in this video has been carefully compiled from reputable sources. If you notice anything that could use clarification or correction, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Join us in the next video as we continue exploring the engineering marvels and breakthrough technologies that are reshaping our world.